So we are continuing on in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous in Chapter 4, We Agnostics, page 44. In the preceding chapters, you have learned something of alcoholism. We hope we have made clear the distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic. If, when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. To one who feels he is an atheist or agnostic, such an experience seems impossible. But to continue as he is means disaster, especially if he is an alcoholic of the hopeless variety. To be doomed an alcoholic death or to live on a spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face. But it isn't so difficult. About half our original fellowship were of exactly that type. At first, some of us tried to avoid the issue, hoping against hope we were not true alcoholics. But after a while, we had to face the fact that we must find a spiritual basis of life or else. Perhaps it is going to be that way with you. But cheer up! Something like half of us thought we were atheists or agnostics. Our experience shows that you need not be disconcerted. All right, so I'm going to stop there. And two things that I want to say on this page before we move on, and I know some of you will have to comment too. For those who like checklists, after this page, we will have checked off step 1. Hopefully, you have gotten that down pat. So we are on page 44. So when we've been in the first 3 chapters and the doctor's opinion, and hopefully we have solidified step 1 for you up until this part. This page kind of finishes off that step 1 by saying we have learned something about alcoholism. If when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take. That's a really quick way to say you have the malady of the mind and the allergy of the body. So this page we kind of go, yep, okay, we've done step 1. Now we're going to move on. And so then we start talking about if you feel you're an atheist or an agnostic. So we're starting to move into step 2. So it's good to note that an agnostic is someone who believes there is nothing known of God, someone more scientifically based. And an atheist is usually someone who disbelieves or lacks a belief in God. Sometimes atheists are those who have been exposed to religion at an early age and have turned their back on it. So those are what I wanted to say on it. Let's go to Connie M. Good morning. You got to hit your button.
Sorry, they're good?
Yep.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. For me, I have the word, it's the sentence in the first paragraph, if when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely. And I have the word or circled, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount of you take, probably an alcoholic. Just to compare myself to others in the program, like that. Some people have been through the ringer and things, but this helps me to clarify myself because I got to the point when I drank, I had little control over how much I take and what happened after that. So that just helps me, what's that called? Solidify myself to say, yeah, I believe I do. I'm an alcoholic. It's not the curmudgeon that has to happen. They lifted the doors higher so that I could come in, and that was the invite for all of us. So thanks. Thanks for being.
Thanks, Connie. Adele.
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I sure can.
Okay. Oh, okay. So, hi. I'm sorry. I haven't spoken before, and I decided that today was going to be the day that I was brave enough to do so. So I'm 11 days sober. I'm sorry. I'm sitting in a dump truck right now. I'm at work, but anyway, this is like couldn't be any more perfect. Sorry if I'm yelling. Just let me know if anything's wrong. But this subject couldn't be any more perfect for me because after 28 years, I started drinking when I was 9, and after 28 years, I guess one of the reasons I'm really nervous to speak is because I don't want to say anything wrong. So if I talk about something I'm not supposed to, I apologize. But, the psych ward and rehabs and outpatients and suicide attempts and ERs and organ failure. And I am just now possibly open to accepting that I might be an alcoholic, and I think I just overthink things, and I just ticked all these boxes, but I haven't ticked all those. And I got a sponsor a few days ago. I have never tried the steps. I didn't understand what really went into it. And a friend of mine who's been in recovery for about 6 years, he goes, listen, I love you to death, but you're pretty neurotic, as you can probably tell. I'm a little high strung. And he said those two things that you just read. Can you stop when you start? And can you stay stopped, or whatever it was? But it was literally those two things. And I answered no. And he goes, look, I'm sorry. The big secret is up. And this is what it is. You don't need to wait to be homeless again. You don't have to. You can just accept this. So I'm having a really, really, really hard time accepting that I can't keep separating my drinking from my selfishness, from my inability to stop creating chaos. Like it's the whole picture. And I grew up really, really religious, and somewhere along the line, I just decided that along with it being everybody else's fault, it was also God's. So I just, got rid of him. But lately, I realized that if I don't figure out some kind of way to allow him back in my life, then I can stop drinking, but it's not going to fix anything else. And so every time I'm like, I don't know, can I really accept that I am an alcoholic and an addict? I just keep going back to those, literally just go back to those two things over and over again. And it's like, have you got it yet? So thank you for listening.
Absolutely.
And this meeting's amazing. So thank you guys. Really
I am
appreciate it.
so glad you're here, and you are like totally in the right spot, and literally keep it simple. Don't jump ahead. Don't try to manage everything. Right now, we are on this page, and that's the page you need to be on. So it's like, if you can't stop when you start, and when you start, you can't control how much, let's check that off and just keep reminding yourself that. And then we're going to keep reading today, and you're going to get blown away. Blown away. I think this is Trish. Are you on my iPhone here? Is that you?
Yeah.
Hi, Trish.
Hi, how's it going? I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. I just have a really quick thing to say about this chapter. I just phoned a friend when I first got into the program, not even maybe a month after, 2 months maybe. Just happened to be talking to a friend who's been in the program a long time, and I just feel really blessed because of what he said. I felt like he said it took me so long because I was agnostic. I can't say the word very good. But I did have God already, but I didn't have enough of God and not this kind of spiritual success as I have now. And it's more and more every day, and it just keeps building. And I'm just so happy to feel that he's on my side. And that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Trish. Annette.
Good morning. And it's afternoon here. And again, here it's the end of step one, because it's true. It's like you have to be honest with yourself, so I see why it gets into the step two, because how we do need a higher power. So if you don't have that existence, or you believe there's a power greater, but you don't know it's God, or you don't believe God exists, it's like, how do you get through step two to continue on our journey? And I was told by my sponsor that step one is the one you have to get 100%. That if you don't have that locked down, it's a hard one. because, you know, you have to totally admit and have no reservations that you're an alcoholic. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you so much. Yvonne. Whoops, hang on. There we go.
Hi, I'm Yvonne. I'm an alcoholic. I'll keep it short so we can keep going. I know when I first came into the program, I did not want to hear about God. I did not like it. I didn't want to hear about it. I had had some bad experiences with churches and all of that. I knew there was something. I guess I was, I don't know what you call it, not spiritual like I am now, but I don't know, just a lightweight spirituality or something. I don't know. But, you know, I'd come to the rooms and I'd sit, but I would never say I was an alcoholic. I didn't want to admit that. I didn't want to confirm that. I knew that I was, but I didn't want to admit that I was. I knew I had a problem. I couldn't quit when I wanted to, all of the above. Tried different things. And finally, just sitting in the rooms and getting comfortable and listening. I'm an alcoholic. And as far as the God thing, for a long time, it wasn't that I had a God, I had a higher power, just something. And for a long time, it was nature, because it was just something that I could draw strength from. And then eventually, you know, it got to the higher power, and now it's God. I'm getting more comfortable with God. Learning how to navigate that. But it is good. I know that works, and I know what it can do. It's like the program, you know, if you work it, it works. You know, if I pray, it works. So anyway, that's kind of where I am. I just had to kind of go with the trust the process, like Susan says in the chat. So anyway, thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Yvonne. Grace.
Yeah, hi, I'm Grace, alcoholic. Let me turn on my video, I'm sorry. When I first came into the program and I was doing step 1, I couldn't go beyond step 1. It took me all I had and all those first 90 days at least to get that first step of total unmanageability and believe it. Because I loved to read little things like hoping against hope we were not true alcohol, you know. So then I would ask my sponsor, well, what is a true alcohol? Am I really a true one, you know, or a potential one, or whatever it was. So I had to really keep my focus on believing that no matter what I had done in the past, I was not successful in staying sober. When I had to begin to look at a power greater than myself, because I didn't even think about that during the first part of the first step, I then started to think, well, the power that was greater than myself was AA, was the people in AA, was the sponsor who helped me do things I could never do before. And it really wasn't until I had to start going into 3 that I had to start saying, well, what was that power greater than myself? You know, it wasn't just the human person in that building. It may have been the force that I call God working through them. But it's very hard, I think, for a real newcomer to go beyond just understanding their total unmanageability and giving that up before they can go on. I think it's a lot to ask in the first step. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. Marianne.
Hi, friends. I am an alcoholic. My name's Marianne. Good to see everyone. By the time I got here and got taken through this book the last time, after 19 years of sobriety, and thinking I was in the program but not doing anything about it, the person who took me through this book had me box around the questions, if you honestly. And then she had me when it says you are probably alcoholic, she had me cross out probably. And that only a spiritual experience will conquer. She had me put after it absolute statement. And she didn't let me have any wiggle room in my head when I read this, because wiggle room almost killed me. So the next paragraph, when it's to be doomed to an alcoholic death or live on a spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face. In the margin beside that paragraph, I have choices, God or death. And this will kill. And it almost killed me. So if I want to live, I got to keep reading on. Isn't it great that these people that wrote this knew exactly how my mind worked? Blows my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Connie, did you have your hand back up, or did I forget to take it down? Yeah, you did. Okay.
Hi, I'm Connie. I'm an alcoholic. The religious, spiritual thing was way too big to deal with. The shame and the guilt and the remorse and the emotional things about not having alcohol in my system and not starting a program, just coming to AA, that was big. That was bigger than any potential for spirit and stuff. But what I couldn't do, when I passed people at work, we passed people a lot, I couldn't raise my head to say hi. I would look to the wall, I would look down, I would not acknowledge them, and therefore I wasn't acknowledged myself. And that was a lot of shame and harboring old ideas and things like that I was going through. But what spoke to me was down in the third paragraph where it says, but after a while, we had to face the fact that we must find a spiritual basis of life or else. And that kind of made the whole religiously spiritual God thing doable. All I had to do was practice. When somebody said, "How you doing?" and I'd say, "Good," and then good. And then after a while, in the middle of the day, I'm going, "Good, I'm good." It changed my whole perspective, that I could hear them answer myself and live in the idea that, actually I'm good, and I can reassure you I'm good. I don't have to live in that morbidity. And for me, that was the beginning of a spiritual basis of life. And it took months. I mean, every day I would get in the car and say, "Okay, just raise your head and say hi." And I'd turn and look at the wall as I'd pass. Or I'd pretend I was busy. Oh my God, I couldn't do it. My sponsor would say, "How'd you do it?" Couldn't do it. Go back to work the next day. Okay, just take a breath and just say hi to one person. Couldn't do it. It was just so ugly. But with persistence and consistency, and then not having the alcohol in my system, I saw that I had to start relating to others and get outside myself, because this was also the behaviors coming into the doors. I just come in the door and sit in the chair, wouldn't look at people. Hi, I'm here. Just couldn't have that human interaction. And for me, that was the disconnect that I started. That's where I was alone, drinking, just living in the bottle. And for me, this was that potential for life that, okay, you're an alcoholic. Think you're an alcoholic. Now there's hope for you. Your life can change. You can live on a spiritual basis, and I find it. And it can be really simple. It can be a doorknob. I believe it can be a light switch for people. I believe it can be that one person in that chair that's at that meeting all the time. That's that hope for that person. And so I live in that, because maybe I'm that for somebody else. Maybe not. But what this program gives me is a purpose for life. I had everything. I had life, I had marriage, but there was no purpose. It was just all work, and it was all hard work, and there was no purpose to it. And this living in the spiritual, we must find the spiritual basis of life. This is so beyond just not drinking and stopping drinking. It brings me to tears, because that was the hopelessness. What's the point? And now it's like, what's the point? The point is, I get to give this to somebody else and say, there's so much life beyond that bottle. I invite you. So thanks for being here. Thanks.
Thanks, Connie. Stella.
Hello. Good morning, ladies. Stella, an alcoholic. I'm kind of the opposite. I always knew that, God was this acquaintance, and he's always been there. Grew up in my mother was very, very religious, and she's just about got her pastors. So God's not foreign to me. but I found that, yeah, he was somewhat of an acquaintance. And now he's like my best friend. And I've just invited him closer. And yeah, it just feels good. It feels good that he's back in my life and he's back in the forefront. So yeah, thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Stella. Raven.
I'm Raven. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, when I finally understood step one, you know, I tried so hard to believe that I wasn't an alcoholic, but I always knew I was because I just drank to black out. I drank to get drunk, and I couldn't control it. And, you know, I had these thoughts of, like, it wasn't that bad. Like, I was young. I didn't lose everything. I didn't have everything to lose, really. And it's like, really, how far do I have to dig myself into my own grave until I actually realize, like, I'm sick? Like, I just felt like I had to, like, end up in a hospital and, like, have doctors telling me, like, gonna die of this disease. And I know now, like, I don't have to get that bad, you know? So I'm grateful that I put it down when I did and put the plug in the jug. So yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Raven. Lisa G.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm real alcoholic Lise. And I'm sitting here and I've got the Torah and I've got a picture of my mother here, Ruthie. She was the God of my understanding growing up, as was my dad, and they're both atheists. And I was sharing this yesterday. It's kind of tough growing up, me, full on alcoholism, being shown that the kitchen is where God really is and not really having a faith in something bigger than us. And it wasn't until we started dying as a collective that my faith in God really got deeper. And Mom's been sick for a long time, and in this picture, she's just so young and vital. And I've got some health challenges now, and I've not got her to go to. So I'm going to go to the God of my understanding to help me address not only the new diagnosis, hers, the residential situation, but I just want to thank this book and its process for bringing me to a power bigger than problems. Because we deal with problems here, but the power gets us through together. Because I drink alone, but we stay sober together. So let's do step 2 together so that we can see the miracle and move forward to step 3 as a collective and get on with the work. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. One more quick one, Leslie, before we gotta move on.
Oh, hi, morning. Leslie, alcoholic. Grew up Catholic. Became a believer in 1982, and never drank after that until I got back with my husband, and a little bit here, a little bit there, and now boom, fast forward 30 years, alcoholic. So I believe that you could start with, scratch that. I don't believe that anything happens by chance in this world. I believe that we're all on this journey, and some of us find that getting closer, to the spiritual side and getting closer to the God of our understanding. But God can change over time. If he's a chair or a light bulb, when you first come into the program, that's one thing. But as you grow spiritually into this program, I feel that God can change as well. And God becomes bigger and greater than all of our problems. And he is there, right with you, going through the shit. My brother was just admitted to the hospital yesterday. He's also a believer. He's also an alcoholic. He's been in and out of treatments. He's been in and out of detox. He's almost dead right now. Now, I can't go there. And what would be the point? His old lady can't go there because he's locked down with the COVID-19. But God can be there. And I'm looking to God to speak to his heart and get him back on track. So that's the kind of shit we face, right? We're alcoholics and our loved ones are alcoholics, and they're fucking chasing the dragon, pardon my French. You know? They think that they can play with this shit and they cannot. So delve into it, get serious about it, work hard on this because this is your life. Be him a light bulb, a chair, a doorknob, I don't care. But you gotta believe in something. That's what I gotta say. Thanks.
All right, let's carry on and see what more we're gonna learn. If a mere code of morals or a better philosophy of life were sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. But we found that such codes and philosophies did not save us, no matter how much we tried. We could wish to be moral. We could wish to be philosophically comforted. In fact, we could will these things with all our might, but the needed power wasn't there. Our human resources, as marshaled by the will, were not sufficient. They failed utterly. Lack of power. That was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves. Obviously, but where and how are we to find this power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself which will solve your problem. That means we have written a book which we believe to be spiritual as well as moral. And it means, of course, that we are going to talk about God. Here, difficulty arises with agnostics. Many times we talk to a new man and watch his hope rise as we discuss his alcoholic problems and explain our fellowship. But his face falls when we speak of spiritual matters, especially when we mention God. For we have reopened a subject which our man thought he had neatly evaded or ignored. So I'm going to pause right there. We're going to talk about that. So the first thing I want to point out is that the word power is mentioned a whole bunch of times. So the first 3 times they mention power, it has a lower p. The p is lowercase. And then in the next section, the p is capitalized. So the next 3 p's are capitalized. So that has some significance because when we're talking about ourselves and our willpower, it has a small case p. 3 times, small case. Then when we say, the last time we say it, it's in a lowercase. Lack of power, that's our dilemma. So our problem is a lack of power with a lowercase p. So we have to find a power, lowercase p, which by we could live. And then they capitalize it. It has to be a power greater than ourselves. And then the next 2 p's are capitalized. This is what I like to term a preschool version of God. Power greater than ourselves with a capital P, meaning it is something great, like a person. You know, when we say Mrs. Ketty, Mrs. is capitalized and Ketty is capitalized, you know, or my name is capitalized. The P being capitalized is referring to God, which is capitalized again. And this power with a capital P is going to solve your problem. So what's your problem? Your problem is a bunch of things, but my problem is my lack of power. My lack of power is what's making me continually drink. It also talks in here about our moral philosophy. I don't know how many of you have made lists. I'm a list maker. I am not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I had it written down. And I had no power with a lowercase p to actually follow through. You know, I am not going to date guys like this, and this. had no power to do that either, right? The guy was my power. So this power greater than ourselves is going to solve our problem. It goes on to say that these spiritual principles will solve all of our problems, and it does. And then it talks about the difficulty which rises with agnostics and also with atheists, where we're reopening a subject which our man thought he had neatly evaded or ignored. So I myself am a recovering Catholic. I was not having anything to do with God. But I was willing to believe in a power greater than myself, that power being Oprah's version of the universe, the secret power, law of attraction. But that was good enough for me to start. But I was neatly evading that God word, right? And then from there, of course, well, guess who showed up? All right, Jenny D.
Thanks, Kimberly. Okay, I jumped in early on this one because 2 sentences in the big book that changed my life when I was brand new and reading this book. One was in Bill's story where it says, why don't you make your own conception of God? And this one right here. That's what this book is about. Its main object is to enable me, to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. And I read that sentence and I went, I have to read this book. I don't know what this power is, but I've got a problem and this book's going to help me. I never had one issue at all with the 1930s writing. I just knew that whatever was in this old book was going to solve my problem, and it has. And I also want to say something else, Kim. I am so happy to be in this line by line. I've been sober a long time. This is the first time ever I noticed or learned capital P, lowercase p. I probably read this 100, 200 times. Thank you. That's why I just love that we can just keep growing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And yes, I forgot to touch on that too. A little bit. So it says the main object of this book is to help you find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. And then if you flip all the way back to the forward of the first edition, it says the purpose of this book is to show you precisely how we have recovered. So there we have the purpose and the object, which are 2 completely different things that I didn't understand when I first started this simple program. It's not so simple. Sherilyn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sherilyn. I'm an alcoholic. And thank you so much, Kim, for this meeting. I love that we're just picking this apart. There's just so much wealth in it all. The part where it says, but his face falls when we speak of spiritual matters. When I first walked into the rooms and I saw all and heard all the talk of God, I was like, the God of my understanding had not served me well, and so I certainly didn't want to hear about yours. And so I didn't really listen or tune in. I just kind of let that kind of go over me. And then finally, when I looked around and saw you all getting sober, I was like, well, there's a power working. I didn't call it that at the time, but it's like, there's something happening that this group of people are doing this, and I'm not able to do it. And 4 years in and out, that was kind of my observation. And just my face did fall because I was like, oh my gosh, I've been introduced to a cult in the past. I'm really, really scared. What does this have to do with quitting drinking? Right? But I kept coming back because there was other language still going on that was attractive enough that I was like, I don't have to worry about that other stuff right now. And it gets sweeter, and I'm just glad I stayed. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Connie.
Hey, my name's Connie. I'm an alcoholic. I'm 15 years sober. My intention was to listen to the ladies line by line, like whatever it was, 12, 13, 14 the other night. And so, because I missed a couple of meetings, and it was talking about, is it Fred or Jim that drinks the whiskey and the water, or whiskey and the milk?
Jim.
And, you know, there's a power. It gives me the chills because it made me reminisce because my mom was trying to teach me how to drink appropriately, you know, when I was 17 and 18, like, hey, I'll teach you how to drink. And we drank scotch and milk. And I love scotch and milk. And just the power of reading that about the whiskey and the milk and people and just, you know, my intention is to learn and do the best with my program. But what this does is sometimes it wakes me up to those old ideas. You know, I started romanticizing yesterday. I listened to 3 different, of this line by line, and so I'm trying to learn, and yet the old ideas come and the romanticizing, and like I could taste the milk and the essence, you know, the ambiance with my mom. It was night, and she's teaching, and that was powerful, and it was shaking me, and I was like, I just had to pause and take a breath and say, okay, I'm not in there. And who knows what this is, but I get a call from somebody that I've been working with and we haven't really worked, and she's feeling really weird. And so today we start reading the 12 by 12 together. And that's the spiritual presence to remind me, like, that's the romanticizing. That's the power of the idea of drinking. And the same thing I found when I do the program of doing the inventory is my intention. I'm going to clean up. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to solve. I'm going to forgive. I'm going to clean. And boy, as you're writing that stuff, those emotions and I would have to walk away from it and call somebody. And that's a power that beyond an idea of what's available to me. If I make myself, I kept praying for openness and willingness, not even honesty. Just help me to be open to this idea and willing to do whatever. And I find that I still am. And I'm shocked. I'm shocked when I read things about whiskey and milk, and it churns in me that old idea. But it reminds me that this is a prevalent, persistent, patient disease that's just waiting for the right time. And if I don't take the measures of action, this is a program of action. And the only one I can act for is myself. And I don't have the answers because my head was circling around with that. But what happened was when she called and asked me to start working with her, it was like, yeah, let's do that. And so it directs that thinking, you know, and that's a huge power that's beyond me. So just offer that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we'll go down to Joanne.
Let's see if this works.
It works. I hear you. Oh, I did. Then you muted yourself. Hit it again. Hit your mute.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So when I remember my first drink, I remember the power that it had, how it felt when the alcohol hit my blood system, how I felt when I didn't care what was disturbing me, how it clicked. And there was an amazing amount of power in that, enough that I wanted that experience again and again and again. So I turned my life and my will over the power of alcohol, and drugs did the same thing. It had the power to not let me feel anything or care about or get hurt or get disappointed. You know, it just allowed me to stay numb. And then I come into the program, and I was religiously abused. So I saw that word God. But the open-mindedness in this program, and even in the writings, this part that we just read about power, is today the power that I experience that keeps me sober is beyond the alphabetical letters that write the word God. I don't choose to read that word. I don't choose to apply that word into my sobriety. But I have a power. I've been sober for 38 years. I have a power because I do everything that I don't want to do to stay sober, and then I watch. And the results have been amazing. But I had to work through not listening to my own alcoholic head that said, this power is going to disappoint you. This power is going to turn on you, just like everybody else. I had to let go and become open-minded to that maybe there are people in the program that I can trust, that maybe I can make a phone call when I really, really want to drink, and someone will answer the phone. And by the end of that conversation, I won't want to drink or put a gun to my head. And then I'll get through another day. So it's not about, okay, I accept whatever into my heart, is that I practice. I challenge anyone that is new, just try it and then watch what happens. Watch what happens. And that's when I've intuitively learned how to handle situations that used to baffle me. Now I get new ones, but I have a program and I have a power that is beyond those letters. And with that, I'll share the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Lise?
I'm back. And what I have for here, for all of us today, this morning on page 45, is lack of power. And I have written here, highlighted in uppercase, my own handwriting, I failed utterly. And then I was faced with a dilemma, and I looked up dilemma and I wrote it down in my index here. And I wrote 2 or more alternatives, especially equally undesirable. Wow. This is heavy stuff. Like, it's no wonder I drank. Like, I drank because life is messy. I drank because it helped me feel good. And until that feel good became poison, and it did, I kept drinking. And I too, I'm knocking on day 6,000 on the 25th. And they haven't all been perfect, but until I found this power, because lack of power was my dilemma, I thought either I was it or my folks were it, because it wasn't, we didn't grow up with God in our home. We grew up with food. We grew up with yelling. We didn't grow up with a faith. We grew up with a lot of religion and a lot of singing in Judaism, a lot of prayers that we recited, not a lot of heartfelt stuff, except maybe once or twice a year. The rest of it was direction and correction. But now I get directed and corrected by God, and I love this book more than I like myself most days. Have a good rest of the meeting. Let's go. Let's keep talking.
Thanks, Lise. And a little note on how important this page is about power. It's fallen out of my book. I refer to it so much. All right, we'll continue on that bottom paragraph on 45. We know how he feels. We have shared his honest doubt and prejudice. Some of us have been violently anti-religious. To others, the word God brought up a particular idea with which someone had tried to impress them during childhood. Perhaps we rejected this particular conception because it seemed inadequate. With that rejection, we imagined we had abandoned the God idea entirely. We were bothered with the thought that faith and dependence upon a power greater beyond ourselves was somewhat weak, even cowardly. We look upon this world of warring individuals, warring theological systems, and inexplicable calamity with deep skepticism. We look askance at many individuals who claimed to be godly. How could a supreme being have anything to do with it all? And who could comprehend a supreme being anyhow? Yet in other moments we found ourselves thinking, when enchanted by a starlit night, who then made all this? There was a feeling of awe and wonder, but it was fleeting and soon lost. Yes, we of agnostic temperament have had these thoughts and experiences. Let us make haste to reassure you. We have found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commenced to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power, which is God. Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another's conception of God. Our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach and to effect a contact with Him. As soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction, provided we took other simple steps. We found that God does not make too hard terms with those who seek Him. To us, the realm of the Spirit is broad, roomy, all inclusive, never exclusive or forbidding to those who earnestly seek. It is open, we believe, to all men. So that's a really good page. And it starts in that paragraph talking about people that were just like me, that had an impression upon them as a child. And, when I left the church when I was 19, I was not even considering God. I didn't like the religion. I didn't like the rules. I didn't like what I was told. So really, my predetermined notions weren't even against God. When I actually thought about it, it was against the religious body that I was a member of. So I didn't really have a problem with God because I kind of knew He was forgiving, and if I made mistakes, I could ask for forgiveness and He would give it to me. It was just all the other rules that came with the religion. So when I broke that down and I went, oh, I never really had a problem with Him. I had a problem with them. And I was like, okay, I can move on. Then we go and we talk about it, the starlit night, the flowers. I've heard people say, go pick that flower. Now go recreate that flower. We can't recreate the flower. There's a power bigger than us that makes the flowers bloom and, makes new life. And I can't recreate that. So what is it? Where did it come from? Big, huge line in the book is it says, as soon, not at some point, as soon as we were able to lay aside our prejudice and express a willingness to believe in a power, capital P, greater than ourselves, we commenced to get results. Commenced right away. Soon as we start to be willing, okay, I'm going to do the Oprah law of attraction thing. I'm willing. I started to get results. Things started happening. And then it says, even though it's impossible for us to define it or comprehend it, that power, capital P. And then it says, very important part where it shifts this book, which is God. You might have missed that line. It's a big line. So now they're taking this power and they're calling it God. Here you go. Here's your power with a capital P. Go believe in a power greater than yourselves. And then they slip that in 3 little words, which is God. So it's like me. My name is Kimberly. Some people call me Kim. Some people call me Kimmy. Some people call me Miss Masters. The kids call me Mom. Someone might say I'm so-and-so's girlfriend, but I'm still Kimberly. So this is like this power greater than ourselves. You might call it Buddha. You might call it God. You might call it your higher power. You might call it HP. I got a lady in my town. She calls it Big Boy. Big Boy, take it. Take it, Big Boy. So it's whatever you want to call it, but that power is God. So there's a really important, 3 little words on there. So that is what it is. And then it goes on and it says, God does not make too hard terms with those who seek Him. Trust me when I tell you that is true. If you seek Him, He will show up. The more earnestly you seek Him, the more He's going to show up. God likes to make Himself known. He's like, yeah, hey, I'm here. I got you. Look at what I can do. Take my ego, give it to God because He needs it, because He's so proud of Himself, and He should be, because He's this great power, right? So He does not make too hard terms with those who seek Him. So if you can't find Him, you're not earnestly seeking Him. But if you go looking for Him, He's going to be there. It's not like where's Waldo and He's hiding somewhere. He's like, I'm right here. Come find me. Right in the open. And then it says it is open, we believe, to all men. There is not a person that this power is not open to. It is all encompassing. This is a broad highway. You might be in the bush bumping along with twigs in your hair, but you can get on this highway. It is welcoming to you. We'll help pick the twigs out when you get here. Shira.
Hi. I'm Shira. I'm an alcoholic. I didn't come to the meetings last week, and I apologize for that. I love these meetings. This page is so great. I grew up a religious Jew, and the way that God was taught to me was you'll get punished if you do something wrong, and Like, you can't turn on the light on the Sabbath. You can't turn the light on Sabbath because you'll be struck with lightning, etc. Like stuff, stupid shit like that. Excuse my language. But yeah, so I didn't like that. I didn't think that was accepting and didn't make me feel very good. So I went away to Israel for 3 years after high school to try to get a better understanding of what I thought was God. And that was the spiritual void that I was trying to fill, and I ended up filling it with alcohol. And none of those worked. And then when I came into the program, I was like, oh, I already know what God is. Like, I don't need to find my own conception of one. But once I was ready to like fully become honest with myself, I was like, okay, dude, like, sure, look, like, God doesn't have to be like the God you grew up with. Like, God can be loving, understanding, caring, accepting, always there for you, your best friend. You can always just reach out and talk to him, be like, hey, what's up? Like, dude, like, I just need some help. Like, I'm lost, I'm struggling, just like help me out here for a second. Like, I know you're here for me and I know you want to help me, so just and I'm willing to accept the help in any way that you see fit. So please help me. So once I gained that understanding and was able to be honest with myself about that understanding, like earnestly seeking him just really, really helped. And when I know when I'm not earnestly seeking him because he does not show up. And I could definitely see the difference between the two. Thank you so much for this page. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we should point out the definition of earnestly. So the Webster's dictionary is earnestly, with sincere and intense conviction. So a lot of people might say, oh yeah, I'm seeking God, but they're not being sincere. They're just lip service, right? And intense, like, I'm intense. I'm looking for him. Like, come on, God, where are you at? Leslie P.
I'm back, Leslie, alcoholic, and I feel a little bit better now. And sorry for having my moment there. I just gotten off the hospital line about my brother. But anyway, so getting back to this, I kind of feel right now that AA, becoming an alcoholic or admitting that I'm an alcoholic, is actually the catalyst, as it were, that brought me closer to God. Because I went off of my merry way for many, many years. And God wasn't in my life. He said, oh yeah, God performs all kinds of miracles. I mean, he healed this one doctor I prayed for. And I mean, he saved me from my motorcycle accident. I mean, he's got a reason and a purpose for everything. And he's not limited to just a few pages on a book. He is way out there. And if you seek his face, he will reveal it in time. And some people, like, sometimes I just like, I'm just amazed at how God does reveal himself to me. And the thing that I do, that I have noticed in my group and stuff, is the Native population, which is very close to our group, who have had a problem because of the residential schools. And that seems to be a real sore spot. And because I grew up Catholic, I could really relate to that. Catholic turned Protestant when I saw the light. But, it's that to me is the difficult part of helping them, to be understanding like how to get over that lump. And I don't know if there's any ladies that grew up in a residential school setting and where they were just the heavy hand. It was like the heavy hand of God, and that is not the God of my understanding. So if anybody's out there, I really hope that that the God of my understanding will break through that terrible evilness that was out there, and that really hurt a lot of people and has prevented a lot of people from carrying on into AA and going through this next step, because I feel it's a stumbling block. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Leslie P. Let's go to Leslie G. You guys crack me up.
Hi, Kimberly. My name's Leslie. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, everyone. I love your line, a power greater than ourselves that creates new life. That fits right in with my concept. When I came in, I was a militant atheist. I thought I had proof of the non-existence of God through calamity in higher education in math and science. And the first old timer who got through to me said, "How's your way working, Leslie?" And I said, "Not worth a shit, Roy." And I felt comforted. I didn't feel defensive. And another old timer said to me in those early days, "God never gives you more than God can handle." And because I had read, because Roy, the first old timer, had read to me Contempt Prior to Investigation, the word investigation was comforting and presented easily enough to me that I was willing to investigate. He said, "Try to believe. There is a God, it's just not you." And when I set out to prove that there wasn't a God that could handle everything the God had given me, I started to get results. And I started to be able to take the steps, do the work, and begin to believe that my self-will run riot really wasn't the best way to go. That was the beginning. There was something better, that I felt better, and that things were working themselves out better without my insane need to control. And I've lost my train of thought, and that's part of my program. I don't have to do this perfectly anymore, and that feels good as well. I know what it was. Simple. Anytime I need to throw a little doubt on, is there really a power greater than myself, I just remember that the mental obsession to drink has been lifted. And I could not bring that about using everything I tried, everything that's listed in the big book, and ad nauseum, especially if other people would shape up. The mental obsession was lifted, and I just returned to do my AA work, read, write, talk to other alcoholics, of course, pray. I wake up in the morning, and the first words in my mind now from practicing are usually "thank you." Go right into the third step prayer and start getting the relief, start getting the uplift, and then roll out of bed and get to this Zoom meeting. What a gift. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Leslie. All right, Marianne.
Hi. So I found the sense of power and direction. I kept coming to you, and I could feel something in these rooms, right? So I sensed that, and then provided we took other simple steps. So I have written above that, there's 12, right? And somebody said to me, "Is being happy and sober worth changing your old ideas, Marianne?" And I said, yes, absolutely. Well, here's a group of drunks that have a written way out of your alcoholic problem. So keep reading on and take the program of action every day to feel better so you don't have to drink anymore. And I went, group of drunks, I can do that. This will get me to the power that I don't understand to this day, but it's working. and it's a lot better than what I had in mind. So thank you.
Thanks, Marianne. And yeah, it just all of a sudden changes. Whatever your beginning is, it's like all of a sudden there's God. You're like, weird, where, how, like, okay, cool. Didn't ring the doorbell. Use the doorknob. Oh, I'm not funny. Annette.
Hi, I just, real quickly, I have this about who says there are no musts, that this is a suggestion on how to do it. So on one of our pages that Connie had pointed out about, but after a while we had to face the fact that we must find a spiritual basis. So that was one of the must. And then also on the other must was about on page 43. Was it 43? His defense must come from a higher power. So I don't know if you've ever heard about the must in the book, but I mean, I love how you pointed out also about the power, this lowercase and the capital, because being raised Catholic, and I get that, and it makes me pay attention more and understand how helpful that is.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, and we need to differentiate that power, right? Because we're powerless, but we got to find a power. Well, can't I just find a power in me? No, I'm a lowercase p. I need to find a capital P because Kim's not capitalized. Emily B. Happy you're here, Emily B. Oh, you're a chipmunk again. Let's try it again. No. Type it out in the chat. Sorry. Chipmunk. You're cute like a chipmunk. Marie, Hudson Valley.
Hi, Marie, alcoholic. Kimberly, thank you. So I was just reading over this, express even the willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves. We commence to get results. So to me, it's like, it doesn't, and it goes on to say that we don't have to define it. We don't have to comprehend it. Regardless, if you have the willingness to just accept something better, bigger than myself, you'll get results, and I was just, I love that. And I love how it continues to go on, which is God, which is the higher power, your understanding. And for me, the results did come because it wasn't, it wasn't that I had this picture of a God in the sky or any, or anything for that matter, but I had something in my mind that was bigger than me, something that I said, okay, you can just have this. And the results came, the feeling better, the understanding came. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie. All right, Emily, did you fix it?
Did I fix it?
Yes!
Oh my God. I don't know why. It's this meeting for some reason does it. Hi, I'm Emily. I'm an alcoholic addict. And I'm not a chipmunk. I swear. I also was diagnosed bipolar type 1, and that's a big part of my story. And when I had my first severe manic episode, I totally thought I was God. I totally thought I was like the new light of the world. I had new clarity. I had this feeling of mania. I had euphoria. I felt this, I felt this spiritual fullness in myself that I had never felt before. And I thought it was true and authentic in me. And so I'm going on, I'm having this relationship with what I think is my higher power, but it's my own toxic delusional thinking. And then I end up in the psych ward, and I'm meeting these people, and I think that they're people from the Bible reincarnated. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, this is unreal. I'm totally in a different dimension. and my relationship with my higher power has been shit ever since then, because I just feel like it's delusional thinking. Like it's my delusional thinking like that. Like it's thoughts that maybe I just come up with. But I'm trying to work at it, because I know that I do believe in a power greater than myself. I just don't believe in the God that I grew up in my Christian home with. And it's ever evolving. It changes. And I do not like a masculine God. I think of God as like the yin and the yang, and the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and it beautifully intertwined together. My prayers today are really simple. They are help and thank you, because that's all I can handle. And it works. It works when I take action to connect with other people, because I do think God speaks to me through other people. Now I'm starting to ramble, but it's just it's just a hard road. I feel like I have a different experience with God because I have this weird manic aspect of me that is not, it's not me. Yeah. Thanks for letting me share. I struggle with addiction and bipolar, and they intertwine so much. Sometimes it's hard to, I don't have a place that I can talk about my bipolar disorder and the way that affects me. And I was listening to a podcast earlier about this girl who is bipolar, and she was like, somebody suggested AA meetings to me to deal with my bipolar, because it's kind of similar in a way, that just those negative toxic thinkings and your brain, you can really work yourself into some terrible dark spots, and it's really hard to get out without the help of other people and listening, being willing. That's one thing. When I'm manic, I think I know everything and I have all the answers and I'm going to figure it out, and that's just going to end me back in the psych ward, because I don't listen to anybody and I get volatile, and it's terrible. But thanks for letting me share. Thanks, Kim, for chairing the meeting.
Thanks so much, Emily. I'm glad you're not a chipmunk today.
Yeah.
All right, Raven, finish us off on this page.
I'm Raven. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I love AA in the Big Book. It wasn't until like a few months ago that I found Wild Variety. It's another Native American, because I am Native American, and reading this book has also opened up a lot of viewpoints for me on like the Europeans bringing alcohol to the natives, right? So there's a lot of stuff there, and it just says on this first chapter, I haven't even gotten into it, but it's talking about this chapter, We Agnostics, and how, like, did you ever see an agnostic Indian? And just like how the chapter We Agnostics in the Big Books of Alcoholics Anonymous has a lot to say to people who wonder whether there is a great spirit in the first place. An agnostic is a person who believes that nothing can be known about the existence or nature of God or anything beyond the material world. In other words, an agnostic is someone who doesn't know if there is an unseen world of spirituality. The chapter We Agnostics was also written for people who think of themselves as atheists. Atheists don't believe that God exists. We Indian people might say that atheists feel that there is no great mystery behind and underneath everything we see and think or feel. So yeah, that's just really, like, I've always felt so in tune with nature when I'm outside. I just feel like this deep connection, and like I don't feel that if I'm using substances or partying or drinking. Like, I don't care. But when I am sober, like, there's just this connection that is so deep, and like that's like what keeps me so sober today and like wanting this, because like there's so much my culture has to offer me if I just stay on this red road to sobriety, recovery, sobriety, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I suggest anyone read that out too if they ever want. I'm sure it would help a lot of people.
Thank you so much, Raven. I always love hearing from you. So good. All right. Connie has another pamphlet she's showing, the God Word. There's so many out there. But we're going to stop on this page, so page 46, but let's assign a little homework to meditate on this page. Really meditate on that middle paragraph. We found that as soon as we are able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commence to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power, which is God. And we will see you ladies all again on Friday.